So what's the biggest challenge you guys face when trying to be advisors?
I would say stubbornness,
Okay.
because they, as also Nicholas pointed out, it's hard to, they're so much deep in love with their ideas.
All right. Anna, not being heard, huh?
Yeah, it's very
So,
similar
oh,
to
it's
the
great.
stubbornness.
Can I understand enough to be helpful? I think it's
Nicholas, what you got? Hard to help people when they're too in love with their idea, yeah?
It's basically the same problem. They are very stubborn, not only because sometimes they...
A lack of confidence.
yeah.
Great. Okay, I'm going to start to group these. I'm going to put these... Uh-oh. Come on. Okay. So we can see a pretty... So there's definitely understanding, insecure. So these all feel pretty similar. It sounds like not being heard, stubbornness, they're in love with their idea. So like basically we're talking to a brick wall. And I can understand why it would be difficult on all you guys, right? You're volunteering your time. We're all volunteers, right? So, to spend our time and waste our energy on someone who's not going to listen, I can understand why that's frustrating. Now here's the cool part. So when we teach people about customer development, what's the thing that we say they need to do? They need to understand their customers' what? The pains. Yeah, their needs, the pain. Yeah, so that's exactly right. So yes, we have to understand their pain. So just like customers have pains, and there are two types of pains they have, right? There are the pains they know they have, and then there are the pains they don't know they have. And a lot of times as mentors, we're talking to a startup and we see that they have a big pile of pain. Like there's all sorts of stuff wrong with their idea. There's like, we want to challenge their existing idea. There's all sorts of things wrong with it. But that's not necessarily the pain that they know they have, right? And we know that if we think about our customers, our startups that we're mentoring, just like customers, that we only get to solve the problems that they know they have. So we've got lots of thoughts about like, hey, they've got problems with confidence or their lack of ambition and all this kind of stuff, and their stubbornness. But what I want to sort of turn this around a little bit. I want to ask you guys to spend another 90 seconds thinking about, if I went down to your founders and I asked them, what's the hardest part about starting a company? What would they say? So what I'm seeing is money. Gabriella is spot on. I don't know a startup community in the world where the founder's biggest problem isn't why isn't someone funding me or why aren't my customers giving me money. So that makes a lot of sense. Understanding the culture. Mario, tell me more. Like if I went up to one of your founders and said, what's the hardest part about starting a company, they would say understanding the culture?
Yeah, I think sometimes that the founders don't understand how the companies or the people in a specific country think, because I don't know, in USA is different than in Peru or in Latin America. Companies, I think, are more open to innovations, maybe. And in Peru, I think is more difficult if you try to launch a disrupt startup. You know what I mean?
And so is that something that the startups will actually say themselves? Will they come up to you and say, hey Mario, my biggest problem is that I don't understand the culture?
No, I think it's something that you discover in the road. It's not.
So what words would they use? What if I went up to a startup you're mentoring? What would they say is the hardest part, the biggest struggle they're facing?
I think it's more understand the culture of the country. That is the thing.
Is that what they'd say? What words would come out? Like imagine you're talking to this company and you say, what's the hardest part about starting a company? What would they say? Not what would you say, but what would they say?
The market doesn't get me. I think they will say that. So that's why they don't get to sell anything or to find the market, the right niche. And that's part of the problem Mario is talking about, right? Like,
what do you, I think that's great. That's a great insight. Mario, do you agree? Is that what they'd say, or would they say something else?
No. Yes, that is my idea. It's more about how you understand how the companies think or or I don't know, get a new product or service.
Okay, so this is a prime example. Like what we're talking about right here, that I'm giving Mario a hard time. Out of the whole hour together, this is where it is. We run into customers we can't help, and we run into stubborn customers when we are trying to solve a problem that they don't have. Just like the startups you're talking to, when they say, "Look, no one's listening to me. The market isn't ready for me." That's just like a founder saying to you, "I'm not ready to hear your advice," or you saying, "The founders aren't listening to me. They're not ready to hear my advice. The culture's wrong here. They're not innovative, blah, blah, blah." The exact same thing is happening. The same thing is happening to your startups as it's happening to you. They're trying to solve a problem that their customers don't have. They do not understand the culture of their customers. And as mentors, when we run into roadblocks, it's often because we don't understand the culture of our founders. If we're not thinking from their perspective, if we're not thinking like, what's the problem they want to solve, then even if we see all the problems in the world, we're not going to be able to help them solve them. What exactly do we do with this information that I just said? The founder's problem is I need money, I don't understand what my customers want, the market isn't ready for me, blah, blah, blah. That's what they say. And then we see all these other things. How does a great advisor combine this information? What's in the founder's head and what's in your head?
I said we can try to deal with their first pressing problem first.
That's my favorite technique. I cheat. Like I said, everything I do is cheating. I just steal the same principles we apply to helping customers, which is if I'm building a startup, I go find my customer, I figure out what their pain is, and then I try and solve it. Right? So if I want to treat a founder as my customer, I ask them, what's the biggest challenge you're up against? And then even though I see 40 other challenges that they're gonna run into, I help them solve the one they're facing right now. Now, I may do that in a way that tries to also knock off some of the other concerns that I have, but my priority number one is helping the founder solve the problem that they're currently tackling.
I am somewhere between more frustrated with my attempted mentoring and a little bit hopeful of my next mentoring. Somewhere between like happier and unhappier.
Yeah, right?